If you're going to buy magnesium oxide, you're just wasting your money. So honestly, that's the best magnesium for your trash can. And a lot of times I get asked, Steve, well, why do we have to take a magnesium supplement? Can't we just eat our way into magnesium? But optimal magnesium, it's a little hard to do it by just eating food. So if you're dealing with stress, fatigue, or even brain fog, don't overlook magnesium as that magic forgotten mineral that can provide a lot of benefit. But remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and choosing the right form matters just as much as just taking magnesium in general. Welcome to The Trusted Pharmacist, where you'll learn the truth about how the body works. Welcome back to the Trusted Pharmacist podcast. I'm Steve Hoffer, the Trusted Pharmacist, and today we're breaking down the truth about what magnesium does in the body. I have a lot of social media, and this is one topic that has exploded in terms of comments and questions. And there are so many ideas about how magnesium works, what it does, how to choose the right form, when to take it. And we're going to go over all of this. So if there ever was a time to book a podcast, this is the one, because we're going to answer all of your magnesium questions and get those out of the way so there's no more guesswork in what is the right type of magnesium for you and how it can affect your body. So did you know that like 80% of Americans are magnesium deficient? And I'm not talking about just low in magnesium. I'm actually talking about below optimal levels that can provide the best health benefit, because your body will do anything it can to keep your blood levels of magnesium normal. But what that means is you may not have adequate magnesium levels in your cells to do the things they should. Magnesium is involved in over 3,000 enzymatic reactions, all things including energy production, muscle function, and brain health. And without magnesium, your body's in a lot of trouble. It can help do everything from help with migraines, help with muscle cramps, prevent anxiety, help you sleep better, and even help with insulin resistance. But we're going to take a deep dive and understand the truth about what magnesium really does in the body and how you can pick the right form. So why does magnesium matter? It is the forgotten mineral, but it is so important in terms of these enzymatic processes. It's a cofactor. And if you don't have adequate magnesium levels, they do not work properly. They may not work as optimally. They may not work at all. And when that happens, we're about to find out why all the things that can go wrong if you don't have adequate magnesium levels. So first, let's talk about energy production. Who doesn't feel tired nowadays? So magnesium is a cofactor in the production of ATP. That's the fuel source that keeps the body running properly. That goes back to the basic blocks of biochemistry of what our body needs to run and be productive each day. And without it, your cells can basically run out of energy. It's like a car that runs out of gas. And if it's low, you're not going to function as well. So when we're low in magnesium, this can show up in terms of problems like fatigue, weakness, poor exercise intolerance, and just not feeling like you have enough gas in the tank to get through the day. Next is muscle and nerve function. When your body carries signals throughout your muscles and your nerves, it's nothing but a bunch of pluses and minuses with calcium and different minerals going in and out of the cells. And magnesium regulates this process for your muscles and your nerves. So when your levels are low, this can lead to things like cramping, twitching, restless legs, and all of those things when your muscles just don't work the way they should. How does magnesium work in stress and cortisol regulation? Believe it or not, magnesium blunts cortisol spikes. It can calm the cortisol release and calm the nervous system. But what's even more crazy, if you have chronic stress, this depletes magnesium. So one problem feeds the other, and it's like what comes first, the chicken or the egg? But chronic stress can lead to low magnesium, and low magnesium can lead to problems with chronic stress. Looking for better sleep and relaxation, magnesium is that go-to mineral because it works on certain neurotransmitters in the brain. It actually helps potentiate GABA, which is your calming neurotransmitter, and it actually helps potentiate serotonin, which is your feel-good transmitter. And when these neurotransmitters are elevated and in the right balance, they can actually have a calm and actually help promote better, deeper sleep. Your heart is another muscle in your body, but it's a super important muscle because it works 24/7. And without it, you'd be dead. So magnesium, just like with the other muscles in your body, is so important in terms of making sure it has proper contraction and proper heart rhythm control. So when we're low in magnesium, this has been shown to actually increase our risk of arrhythmias, definitely can cause high blood pressure, and actually low magnesium can actually be linked to sudden cardiac death. And that's not a good thing. So we want to make sure adequate magnesium levels are there to help promote and protect our heart. Magnesium is critical to make sure we have adequate blood sugar control and proper insulin sensitivity. Magnesium is a critical mineral to make sure that that insulin receptor is working properly. And if it's not, low magnesium levels have been linked to a higher risk of type 2 diabetes and an increased risk of metabolic syndrome. And finally, when it comes to weight loss and metabolic health, the key mineral is magnesium. We push this a lot in our weight loss class to make sure optimal magnesium is there because of all the effects it has. Like you said, it improves insulin sensitivity so that we make sure that the body produces the right amounts of insulin so we don't store too much fat. It controls stress and cortisol. So many people have high cortisol and stress, which drive emotional eating. And actually, magnesium can cut those food cravings and calm that stress that makes your eating out of control. It boosts energy in the mitochondria, like we talked about, so that you have more energy to move and function, and have more energy so you're not tired all the time, so you can move and burn off those calories that you're putting in your body. It improves sleep quality because we've shown without proper sleep, we have hunger hormones that get increased, like ghrelin, and we have a decrease in leptin. And this hormone imbalance can lead to poor blood sugar control, which can lead to obesity and weight gain. It reduces inflammation. When the body's inflamed, it will not let go of fat. So keeping inflammation low by controlling HSCRP and lowering something called interleukin 6 is something that's very important in terms of magnesium's ability to keep and help with weight loss. And then finally, it actually increases a satiety hormone in the gut called CCK, cholecystokinin, which actually slows gastric emptying, creates a signal of fullness in the brain, and that will naturally decrease the amount of food we want to take in. So magnesium is so powerful when it comes to weight loss because of all these different mechanisms that provide benefit. So what about magnesium's interactions with other nutrients? First is vitamin D. Magnesium is critical for the body to activate vitamin D. Keep in mind, you don't have to take your magnesium with vitamin D at the same time, but having adequate magnesium on board is super important to convert magnesium from the inactive form to the active form. Next is magnesium's interaction with calcium. We don't want to put too much magnesium and calcium in the gut at the same time, but we do need magnesium and calcium in a nice tight balance because this balance is what's important in terms of having the body use it properly. Because if we have too much calcium with not enough magnesium, this can lead to calcification in the arteries and actually can trigger some muscle spasms. Next is magnesium and zinc. Magnesium and zinc are both minerals, and thus when they're in the stomach at the same time, they can compete for absorption. So keep in mind, it's not that you can't take zinc and magnesium at the same time. We just don't want to take excessive amounts of both as they can compete and make each other cancel out. They don't get absorbed as well. Next is B6 and magnesium. This is a really unique interaction because the body needs B6 to help magnesium get into the cells. So taking magnesium and B6, which sometimes can be combined in the same product, can actually help the magnesium have a more beneficial effect in the body. And finally, phosphorus, which we see in some supplements, but it's important to keep in mind. When we have phosphorus in the body or an excessive intake of phosphorus, this can actually help your body and it competes and makes your body waste magnesium. So we want to be careful that we don't have an excessive amount of phosphorus in our supplements that we're doing because it can take and negate the benefits of magnesium. So at this point, I probably have had over 100,000 comments about which magnesium is the best for which condition. So let's talk about why there's even different form of magnesiums to start with. Magnesium is a mineral, which means it has a charge on it, which means if it's not hooked up to a certain molecule or a chelate, it actually is not as stable and not as usable. So through manufacturers of supplements, they've hooked up magnesium with certain molecules to help give it certain properties. These properties can help in terms of the absorbability, what type of tissues it targets, even can it cross the blood-brain barrier. But these extra molecules that they hooked up the magnesium to can also provide additional benefit to certain tissues. So keep in mind, when we look at a bottle of magnesium, there's always the amount of the type of magnesium. Let's pick like magnesium glycinate. Magnesium glycinate may have about 400 milligrams of magnesium glycinate in the capsule, but if you look very closely at that, it may only have about 100 to 125 milligrams of actual magnesium, and that's what's called elemental magnesium. So we have to be very careful when we're looking at the labels to make sure the product that we have indicates exactly how much of the actual salt form of magnesium, magnesium glycinate, magnesium citrate, but then more importantly, how much elemental magnesium is there. But the form of the magnesium is important as it gives it certain properties and characteristics that can help treating and taking care of certain medical conditions a little better than other forms of magnesium. So let's break down what forms of magnesium is best for what conditions. So let's start with brain health, anxiety, sleep, and those type things. My go-to is magnesium L-threonate. This form of magnesium is really unique because it actually has the ability to cross the blood-brain barrier much better than the other forms of magnesium. Now, keep in mind, magnesium L-threonate is unique. The threonate molecule is a very large molecule, which means in a capsule of magnesium L-threonate, there's not as much elemental magnesium. So we have to keep in mind, sometimes we'll have to take larger doses to get enough magnesium to move the needle in the body. The good thing about magnesium L-threonate, it's absorbed pretty well. It's got about a 20% absorption, which helps get a lot of magnesium from the gut into the system. So this is my go-to magnesium for things like cognitive function. If you can't concentrate and focus, ADHD problems, this is probably the form of magnesium I'd recommend to start with. If you've got brain fog, if you struggle with anxiety, this is also a great form. And finally, because this form of magnesium can get in the brain better than most, there's a lot of studies that it's shown to be beneficial in terms of getting more deep sleep and REM sleep because magnesium levels in the brain are higher, and this promotes better sleep. For constipation and detox, my favorite's magnesium citrate. It's got an absorption level of about 30%, and this is my go-to supplement if somebody's looking for if they have constipation issues. There are so many really not so good products on the market for constipation, but magnesium citrate is something you can take every day. Honestly, if you've got constipation every day, you need to look at root cause issues, but low magnesium can be one of those issues. So what's important is to find the right dose of magnesium citrate to help produce a good soft stool. We don't want chronic diarrhea, but it's mild laxative effect because it has the ability to draw a lot of water into the intestines. Make this my go-to when it comes to constipation for patients. Next is muscle recovery and PMS. My go-to for that is magnesium glycinate. It has one of the highest absorption amounts of all the magnesiums on the market. I've seen estimates anywhere between 40 to 60% of the magnesium in this product gets absorbed in the body. It has a gentle calming effect. That's what glycine does. It has some relaxation properties. That's why for some patients, I've seen this one also good to help with sleep issues. But it is ideal for muscle cramping because it has the ability to calm and relax those muscles. And it actually is very beneficial in terms of helping with PMS symptoms. And most importantly, if you'll start taking this anywhere between 5 to 10 days before your next cycle, you'll get the most benefit in terms of helping with those issues, to help make that PMS issues a little lighter on you, to help make sure you feel a lot better during your cycle. For cardiovascular issues, I really like magnesium taurate. Magnesium taurate is a unique form that has a taurine molecule hooked up with the magnesium. And taurine is really beneficial for that heart muscle in terms of helping with the heart rhythm to keep it more normal, to help lower blood pressure. And there's actually some studies showing that magnesium taurate can also be beneficial for migraine prevention. Magnesium taurate gets absorbed in that 30 to 40% range, so the absorption is very high. So this allows it to get a lot of magnesium in the body, but taurine also benefits the cardiovascular system, so that's why it's my favorite. Fatigue issue, energy issues, fibromyalgia, my go-to is magnesium malate. The malic acid that's part of this type of magnesium can benefit the mitochondria to help with energy production. So if you struggle with fatigue, tiredness, run down, fibromyalgia, chronic fatigue issues, magnesium malate is a go-to form that has great absorption in about a 30 to 40% range, but also can give benefit in terms of making sure the mitochondria produce and work the best they can. What about bone health? I don't think there's any one magnesium that's any better than any other, but I would say magnesium glycinate is a good choice because it does get absorbed well. And this is where sometimes I like a combination product. We've got one at the pharmacy called Triple Mag Plus. It's a combination of glycinate, taurate, and malate. And this works great to help lay down the foundation for that bone building. If you pair magnesium with some vitamin D3 plus K and adequate amounts of calcium, I think this is your go-to along with hormone balance and making sure you have adequate weight-bearing exercise that can be really beneficial to build and strengthen your bones. And I always have to throw this one in because unfortunately this one is the most recommended by medical practitioners, but is useless, and that is magnesium oxide. Magnesium oxide has the worst absorption of all the magnesiums, but so many times people come to the pharmacy and say, hey, my doctor said get magnesium oxide. And I'm like, look, all you're doing is buy an expensive bathroom break by buying a supplement. The absorption is so poor. It is a harsh laxative. It's poorly absorbed. So to be honest with you, if you're going to buy magnesium oxide, you're just wasting your money. So honestly, that's the best magnesium for your trash can. So how do you know if you're low in magnesium? First of all, by doing a blood level of magnesium, you're really kind of wasting your time because I talked about magnesium is so critical for the body. It will do anything in its body to leach magnesium from your bones or anywhere else it can to keep blood levels of magnesium normal. So the best way to probably check magnesium levels is to do a micronutrient test or something called an RBC magnesium that looks at the magnesium content within your cells. Probably the best way to check magnesium is like a magnesium challenge test, but sometimes that's a little harder to do. So my go-to for easy that your doctor can run is something called an RBC magnesium. So in terms of being low, you might ask, well, what are the common symptoms that indicate I'm low in magnesium? Once again, if you put 2 or 3s together and you have these and you think your magnesium's low, this could be an indication. Things like leg cramps, muscle cramping, excessive fatigue and tiredness, insomnia, really intense PMS issues or cramps during your period. High blood pressure is a real common one that magnesium is great for lowering. If you have chronic headaches or migraines, constipation, brain fog, and muscle twitching, if you have any number of those and they're all linked together and you have those, you might want to be thinking magnesium could be that key mineral that can provide benefit for all these issues. And the reason I like magnesium for these is it's pretty safe and it's not very expensive. And a lot of times I get asked, Steve, well, why do we have to take a magnesium supplement? Can't we just eat our way into magnesium? Yes, there are magnesium-rich foods, but the one thing I'll say is to get optimal magnesium levels by eating food, it is virtually impossible to eat enough of these in a day. Some of the most common foods that I see can provide good magnesium benefit are things like pumpkin seeds, quinoa, chia seeds, almonds, cashews, dark chocolate, and spinach are some of the most common things that are high in magnesium. There's also some magnesium in things like bananas and avocados. But keep in mind, these can provide some magnesium levels, but optimal magnesium, it's a little hard to do it by just eating food. So I get peppered with magnesium questions. So if you ever wanted an FAQ about what you need to know about magnesium, here we go. How much magnesium should you take? If you're a healthy person and you don't have any medical issues that you're aware of, most people can get away with being 200 to 400 milligrams of elemental magnesium per day. Remember, we talked about that. Your magnesium, if it's a quality product, you should be able to look on the back and see how much actual elemental magnesium there's per capsule. So between 200 to 400 milligrams is a good starting point. If you really wanted to calculate a dose, you can calculate by looking at about 5 to 7.5 milligrams of magnesium per kilogram of body weight per day. That's a good actual average to start with. If you're an athlete and you sweat a lot, I don't even have a problem of going up and considering going to 10 milligrams of magnesium per kilogram of body weight per day. I want to stress, if you're taking magnesium, we want to drink a lot of fluids, and you don't have to start at these high doses, but if you're looking for a place to start, that's a good place to start. If you want to look at it in pounds, it's about 2 to 4 milligrams of magnesium per pound of body weight per day. And I'm talking ideal body weight. If you're excessively obese or have a lot of extra pounds that you're trying to get rid of, don't go the high weight. Stick with more your lean body weight, what it should be. And that's a good place to kind of calculate a dose. It's important to start low and go slow. If you're worried about starting with too much and you don't want to start with too much magnesium because it will cause diarrhea, start low and go slow and work up your dose slowly. A lot of people ask, what's the best time of the day to take magnesium? And I'll say that's really more about what you're trying to take it for and the form. The way I see it is if you don't have a specific time to take it and you're only going to take magnesium one time a day, I would stick with evening dosing because it has a chance to calm you, relax you, help with better sleep. Also, too, if you're taking something like a mag citrate at night to help with constipation issues, it should actually help you produce a good, nice, loose stool in the morning. Let's take, for instance, something like magnesium threonate that can help with memory, concentration, and focus. Now, that may be fine to take more during the daytime because you're trying to get that benefit throughout the day. So it all depends on the form you're taking and what you're taking it for. But if I was just going to take it one time a day, I would start in the evening because our bodies can only absorb about 200 to 300 milligrams of magnesium per dose. If you're having to take more than that per day, and if you calculate the dose, you may need that, I wouldn't take no more than about 300 milligrams at any one dose. If you find you're taking 400, 500, 600 milligrams of magnesium per day, which may be needed for certain people, then you want to split the dose and take no more than 300 at a time. So let's say you're taking 600 milligrams a day. I would take 300 in the morning and I would take 300 at night. Next thing is some people say, hey, I want to take magnesium glycinate for certain benefit and magnesium threonate for another. Once again, as long as you're not putting any more than about 300 milligrams on the stomach at one time, that's okay. But if you are, separate the two types of magnesium. Take one in the morning, one in the night, depending on what you're taking for. But separating the dose is important because if you put too much magnesium on the gut at one time, you're not going to be absorbed as well. You're wasting your money. It's probably going to cause diarrhea. And if you're taking magnesium, you want to give your body a chance to absorb it. Common question, what do I need to be careful with when I take a magnesium supplement? So first of all, if you've got chronic kidney disease, you need to be super careful taking magnesium, and you really probably should talk to your doctor before you start. And if you do have chronic kidney disease, we're going to start at a lower dose, and we're going to monitor ourselves because we don't want too much magnesium. If you're on blood pressure medication, sometimes taking magnesium can lower your blood pressure and make your blood pressure medicines work better. So it could cause some lightheadedness and dizziness. So we want to start at a lower dose. If you have a heart block, taking magnesium, you need to be careful with that. And finally, if you take thyroid medications, magnesium is a mineral, and minerals bind up thyroid. So it's important to separate your thyroid medication with magnesium by about 2 to 4 hours to make sure that the magnesium doesn't affect how well your thyroid medications work. I get asked a lot of times, can I take magnesium if I'm either pregnant or if it's for a child? The thing I want to stress with you, both of these are safe to take for pregnancy and if you're a child. We're going to go lower doses. You're going to want to talk to the doctor to make sure that they're okay with that, but I don't see an issue. Most importantly, when it comes to children and for pregnant women, you want to take a quality magnesium product. You want to take a pharmaceutical grade magnesium, one that's treated like a drug and not an over-the-counter supplement that's got third-party testing for purity. Because you're right, you may get magnesium in that product, which hopefully you do, but it could have other things like heavy metals and toxins and things like that. And especially for children and especially for pregnant women, we don't want to be putting a bunch of fillers and things in the body during these times, during growth or during pregnancy, so that we cause harm to the mother or the child that's taking it. So I want to stress, if you're going to be pregnant or you're going to be a child taking magnesium or just anybody taking magnesium, make sure you get a good quality product that's third-party tested from a reputable vendor. Just going and picking something randomly off of Amazon because you see an ad is what's scary. And that's the part where at Magnolia Pharmacy, I feel like we have a unique advantage. We understand medications, we understand how they're made, and we put all of our supplements through third-party testing, and we do our homework on the companies that make these for us to make sure that we're getting quality products so that we get the benefit, but we don't cause further harm. So just to wrap up those common questions, can I take more than one form of magnesium? The answer is yes, but I would probably separate the doses at different times of the day. What's the most amount of magnesium you should take at one time? No more than about 200 to 300 milligrams. And if you want to take more than that, that's fine. Just separate the magnesium at different times of the day. And then finally, what's the best time to take magnesium? I would probably start in the evening because it can help you get better rest and sleep. But if you want to take it in the morning, that's fine too for like memory concentration. Or if you're taking like the malic acid form, the magnesium malate to help with energy, that's fine to take during the day, or the 3 and 8 to help with focus. But there's not an exact perfect time to take magnesium, but I would recommend if you are going to start it, take it at one time a day, start in the evening. What about topical sprays and gels? I think these are great. These are forms like magnesium chloride that are great for local effects. So if you've got muscle aches and cramps, or you've got tension in the back of your neck, these gels and sprays are great to lurk in the local effect. But if you're looking to get overall body benefit, let's say you're trying to get magnesium in the brain, I don't think the topical forms are necessarily your best ones to use. So what are the most common side effects with magnesium? So if you're on the oxide especially, but if you're on the citrate form, diarrhea is the most common side effect you're going to see. The one thing I'll say is I use diarrhea to explain to our patients how to find their sweet spot dose. So if we have somebody that's taking magnesium and they're working the dose up slowly, I don't like anybody to take more than 200 to 300 milligrams at one dose. So let's say we're taking magnesium citrate at nighttime to help get good bowel movement in the morning. We work our way up to 1 to 2 to 3. Once we get to 3 magnesium, but we're still not having diarrhea, then we will recommend for them to take a morning dose and work the dose up slowly. But as you're working your dose up and you find your ideal magnesium dose, and then all of a sudden you work up and you hit diarrhea, that's a sign you probably have overshot and you need to back down. Magnesium is fairly safe as long as you got good kidney function and you're drinking lots of water. But when you get excessive doses, it can cause things like severe nausea, muscle weakness. It can drop your blood pressure very low and actually can cause heart rhythm problems. Now, keep in mind, we talked about earlier, low magnesium can cause heart rhythm problems, just like high magnesium can. So we want to be very, very careful with magnesium. It's a great supplement, really safe. Getting the optimal levels is important. And the best way you can do that is test to find out which forms of magnesium and what levels are best for you so you can get the most benefit. So if you're dealing with stress, fatigue, or even brain fog, don't overlook magnesium as that magic forgotten mineral that can provide a lot of benefit. But remember, it's not a one-size-fits-all, and choosing the right form matters just as much as just taking magnesium in general. So I want to encourage listeners, make sure you check supplement labels. If it doesn't tell you how much elemental magnesium is in the product, don't buy a product like that. Buying the cheap drugstore brands that you see everywhere are not the best. We want to look for the right form of magnesium. And if it doesn't tell you the form, I wouldn't buy that either. But make sure you're checking the levels to find the right dosage so you take the right amount so you can get the benefit you're looking for. Next, if you're taking magnesium on a regular basis, don't be scared to ask your doctor for an RBC magnesium, not the serum magnesium. You'll see that on every one of your blood work. That really doesn't tell us much. RBC is more of our magnesium status to know that we have the right amount of optimal magnesium to get the benefit. And then finally, look for high quality supplements. At Magnolia Pharmacy, we do the homework. We check with vendors. We make sure it's manufactured to a pharmaceutical grade purity so that you're getting the right form of magnesium and the right dose without a bunch of nasty fillers, toxins, and dyes. I bet you didn't know there was so much to know about magnesium, but keep in mind, magnesium might be the missing piece that you didn't even know you needed. It's gentle, it's safe, it's really inexpensive, even in good quality brands, but it's incredibly powerful when it's used the right way. Check out the link in the show notes to check out my trusted pharmacist magnesium picks, and make sure you join our email community for weekly health tips, supplement support, and podcast updates. Thanks for listening. I'm Steve Hoffer, the trusted pharmacist, and those that want the truth about how the body works, follow and share this podcast.